everyone, today I wanted to talk about conflict. Conflict has over the years been given a bad rap as a negative thing, as an ugly thing. It doesn't feel nice, it feels uncomfortable, it feels awkward, the vibe doesn't feel good, and as a result of that we tend to avoid conflict. And I'm here to share with you that conflict isn't necessarily a bad thing. From a very young age we get conditioned on how to deal with conflict. We hear messages such as stop fighting with your brother or your sister. Share your toys, play nicely, share your sweets, take turns. And those messages that we get really put conflict in a negative light, make it an ugly, bad thing. And so we either tend to shut down and withdraw from conflict, or we tend to come out and defend against conflict. But conflict is actually a normal part of life, and it happens in all areas of our lives. There can be inner conflict or inner turmoil. You're at a crossroads in your life and you have to make a very big decision. And you sit there, should I do this? Should I do that? What if this happens? What if that happens? And so there's this internal battle that goes on inside of you. There's conflict with your partner when you're fighting and you're not in a good space together. There's conflict with your children when you happen to be fighting or arguing or disagreeing with your children. We even have conflict with our friends and our family members. And then in the workplace, there's conflict as well, with employees, with our team members, with our customers, and even with our suppliers. So as you can see, conflict is actually a normal part of life. And so I'm here to encourage you to embrace conflict. You may know that I've written the book, Embracing Conflict. And so I want to encourage you to embrace conflict and to get curious about what's really going on underneath there, because all conflict really is growth trying to happen. It's actually feedback that something is not right or something is not working. And what's happening is we're being pushed out of our comfort zone. Our comfort zone is behind those protective walls that we put up when something doesn't feel right. And so if you go underneath that and you look for the feedback and you go, what's not working here? What is the insights that I can learn here, either about myself, about the other person, or about the situation? When we step outside of our comfort zones, we actually give ourselves an opportunity to learn something new, to evolve, to grow, to experience, as opposed to when we stay behind our protective walls and then we play it small. The more you learn to embrace conflict, the less scary conflict will actually be. And it's about how you embrace that conflict, about getting curious as to what's really going on underneath it, and that we can do conflict in a positive way. There is such a thing as healthy conflict too. But embracing conflict in a positive way and a respectful way, in a way where we go in and we approach it and look for the solution as opposed to trying to prove a point or keeping score. And when we approach conflict with that in mind, where it's solution orientated, by being mindful of how I'm showing up and how I'm co-creating the space, by being accountable for my own behavior and or holding other people accountable for their behavior, by being respectful towards each other, respectful as human beings first and foremost, and then the situation and the labels that come with it. And then by making time to actually sit down and be curious about what's happening underneath that conflict. Conflict actually then is not such an ugly thing after all. We can actually flip it on its head, and when we reframe something, it actually takes on a whole different perspective and a whole different character. So I want to encourage you to embrace conflict. I want to encourage you to be curious about conflict, because conflict is really just growth trying to happen, and it's pushing us out of our comfort zones. And with that, we learn to grow and evolve. And the more we embrace conflict, the easier it becomes, and the less scary it is. And we are then able to resolve conflict in our lives in a much more healthier and positive way, as opposed to ways that can be toxic and destructive.